All right, my doggies, let's get on down to the wide receivers. Number one wide receiver, John Brown. This boy is a locked in wide receiver one for his team. And this guy's got Josh Allen with the rocket arm. There's not a whole lot of other competition there for him. So he's the number one guy. I definitely recommended him in my pre-draft videos. And now we're a week in, and he's looking locked in and looking like a stud. So he's the number one guy, and it's very close between him and number two, Tyrelle Williams. The Raiders, obviously, Antonio Brown is gone, and so that makes Tyrelle Williams the number one guy. And that does not change the fact that John Gruden wants to throw the ball. He wants to have an up-tempo offense. He's not stuck in the old days like some people predict. Listening to him, he is aware of the new NFL and the way that they play in Kansas City and Philly and this new up-tempo type of style, and that's what he's looking to do. He wants to go deep, and now that AB's gone, it doesn't make him any happier, but he's still going to go deep, and so that's going to be Tyrelle Williams. I expect the Raiders to be down, and they need that guy to stretch the field, so he's the number one and number two. All right, now let's move on to Marquise Brown. Now, Marquise Brown is a guy who is worth a waiver claim, just like John Brown and Tyrelle Williams. And the negatives on Marquise Brown, obviously, that his quarterback doesn't throw a whole lot of passes, and it's not a big passing game. And people are thinking he only got, 14 snaps, and so the regression is due, and you can't sustain a wide receiver one on that kind of volume. But I would just caution people that this is not your typical offense, and because they run so much, it definitely means that the defense is looking to stop the run more, and they're committing more people to stop the run, which means the wide receivers are more open, and Lamar Jackson can hit a wide open player. And so on top of that, Marquise Brown is the number one wide receiver taken in the draft. Like, this guy is a legitimate talent. He's a stud. So he's a first round pick, and he's the top target on the team. So when he's going down, he's got that one-on-one coverage. He's going to get the ball. So I think he's worth a waiver claim. And a lot of these players on here are good, but they might not be worth a waiver claim. You might want to wait till after waivers clears to see who's there on free agents. And if you notice, I did the running back video and the waiver wire video for wide receivers. There's a lot more wide receivers to choose from, and this is why when I drafted super elite wide receivers, so I didn't have to mess with this stuff, because I guarantee you on this list of 14 right here, there's some league-winning studs. And so are you going to pick them? Can you predict touchdowns for wide receivers? It's extremely hard to predict wide receivers, which is why we go so heavily on wide receivers early in the draft, so we can leave all this middle ground stuff to the other players in your league while you focus mostly on getting running backs. Okay, but nevertheless, here we are. These are the wide receivers, and Marquise Brown is definitely worth it. Now, fourth is Djax. Now, Djax is going to be more volatile. He's not the number one wide receiver on his own team. He's probably third behind Ertz and Jeffrey, but they can support him. And on top of that, he's so fast that, I think Wentz looks for him quite a bit. And so I definitely think there's going to be some boom or bust games. You're not going to win your league with Desean Jackson. You can win some games with Desean Jackson, but a loss in fantasy hurts more than a win helps, because you can't make your playoffs on a 500 record. So you can't really go with the down games that you get with Desean Jackson. When he hits one, he's going to help you out and he's going to help you win, but it's going to be a little too volatile for my flavor. So moving on to Michael Gallup. Now, he's not even the number one wide receiver on his own team, so that's why he's not much higher. But he looks great, and that team that he's on is starting to throw the ball a lot more, and they're a new look offense. In case you didn't notice about the Cowboys, they're throwing the ball a lot more, and they're stepping up their game. They're not just going to give it to Zeke 30 times or 25 times a game unless they're winning by a lot. So I think Michael Gallup's a nice pickup. I probably wouldn't spend a waiver wire pick on him, but he looks really good, and I expect him to get a lot of one-on-one coverage with Amari Cooper. But let's not get it twisted. The dude is not the number one wide receiver on a run-first team. I think the identity of the Cowboys is changing a little bit. They're starting to move into being a lot more pass-friendly, so that could be changing. At the same time, he's never going to overtake Amari Cooper. Here's the thing. Mark Cooper still got that plantar fasciitis, and we're not hearing anything about that because he played well. But let's say that flares up, immediately Michael Gallup becomes a stud. So he's kind of a wide receiver handcuff with standalone value. And, who wants wide receiver handcuffs? Not me. But having a wide receiver handcuff behind Amari Cooper with plantar fasciitis might be a little more tempting. Now, one of the more exciting players is DK Metcalf because he's got a lot of hype coming in, and certain people saying he's the next Tyrelle Owens type of guy, and I really wasn't buying it. Most of us were all over Tyler Lockett, but this guy got more targets than Tyler Lockett, and he could be a heavy part of the offense. The only problem is that he's not the number one wide receiver, and this team definitely runs the ball. This isn't like the Cowboys where they're starting to morph into a passing team. This team wants to get the ball, and the number one wide receiver on that team is actually Chris Carson. So you don't really want DK Metcalf, but there is some upside there, and we can't dismiss him because he had so many targets on his first game. So he's someone to keep an eye out on. Wait till waivers clears. If he's available and you feel like taking a shot on him, grab him, watch him for the next week or two, and see if he's involved as much as he was this last game. And then John Ross. And let's talk about John Ross for a minute. Now, they threw 51 passes, and he got 12 targets. So that's definitely elite. But we're talking about season-long winners here, people who near the end of the season are going to be worth more than they are now. And I don't think John Ross's value is going to be going up as the season goes by. Still got Tyler Boyd there. And they still got A.J. Green coming back. And they still got Willis, who's a rookie that they promoted, so he's on the starting squad now. And Mixon's coming back. So, there's just this was his game, and you try to chase this game and put him in your starting lineup, and the next game it'll be Boyd. And, by then, who knows, Green could be coming back. But I know John Ross has got a lot of talent. People have been waiting for him to bust out for years, but, I don't know. The offense, like I said, the Bengals are starting to throw the ball more, so I think he's going to have his games, but kind of like Desean Jackson, he's kind of boom or bust. And couple of those touchdowns that he got this last weekend were very fluky. And his targets, the 12 targets, are not a fluke, so that's the reason why he's on this list. But I don't expect a touchdown or two from him every game, not even one touchdown a game, really. I expect him to get, 60, 70 yards, and that's about it. And not being able to be dependable because you never know which wide receiver is going to get the ball because there's so many of them. So that's my spot on Ross. He's at 7. I have him a little bit further down than a lot of other people, but that's because, like I said, Boyd and Willis and Green all coming back, and no, I don't think so. We'll wait on John Ross for me. Now, Devante Parker is pretty interesting because Devante Parker, he might have Fitzpatrick throwing him the ball, and Fitzpatrick likes to throw that up. Now, he had a good game. I believe he got about 70, 75 yards his last game, and that was playing against the Ravens D, who were absolutely loaded on defense. And he looked really good playing against that defense. So they're going to be behind a lot. And, Stills is gone. Albert Wilson is hurt. So I think Devante Parker is going to get fed. And he's going to get stuffed the ball in the passing game because they're going to need to throw it to somebody. And, they got Preston Williams there, and he looks all right, but he's not going to take Devante Parker's job anytime soon. So Devante Parker's a nice add. Even though I don't really like the Miami offense, he's probably the one beneficiary, one person I'd be really interested in. Now, we're going more speculation here, but Mecole Hardman, we know that Sammy Watkins is running this offense from the wide receiver position as long as Tyreek Hill's hurt. But Sammy Watkins has been an injury waiting to happen for his entire career, and he looks great this year. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't just look good because he scored 3 touchdowns last week. He looks amazing. The eye test, he just looks like he knows what he's doing. That offense is his second year in his offense, and he's went to 3-4 offenses in the last 4 years, so he really hasn't had opportunity to get to know a playbook, and it just looks like this is going to be his year. So I'm really big on Watkins right now. I'd even consider you trade for him. Obviously, his value is going to go down later when Tyreek Hill comes back, but he just looks great. And I think Tyreek Hill and this offense can definitely support 2 wide receivers. So I like Mecole Hardman just as a kind of a backup to Sammy Watkins. And as long as Tyreek Hill's gone, Hardman should have that wide receiver 2 role. And if anything happens to Watkins, he'll have the number 1 role. And even when Tyreek Hill gets back, then Hardman might be a good person to drop, but until then he's sitting behind Sammy Watkins, which means he's one fingernail away from being the starting wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes thrown to him. So I like Mecole Hardman in that sense. I'm a little nervous he's a rookie, but he is only behind Sammy Watkins, so I like that as a speculative ad. Now, Amendola. Obviously, Amendola got like 10 catches, 100 yards, something like that. Like he was fed, and if he keeps that up, he's going to be a lot higher on my list. But the upside's just not there. He's not a deep threat. He's not on a high-scoring offense, and there's all sorts of other wide receivers there. You got Hawkinson, who's coming in right now as a rookie, already demanding 10 targets. You got Marvin Jones, who's going to need that some targets, and you got Galladay, who's a legit star, just needs more targets, and you got the running backs. I mean, I just don't see Amendola as that high upside, but if he keeps up that 10 target, 100 yard, or 10 catches, even better, then sure, then I like him. And then in the same vein as Crowder, I think we just saw Crowder's best game. You know, and I know he got like 17 targets, I think, 13 targets, something like that. Was incredible. But they still have Robbie Anderson, who's the deep threat, and they have Quincy Enunwa, who has been that guy. So I think Enunwa and Crowder are going to steal from each other all season long, and Anderson and Robbie Anderson is still there. And then, of course, Le'Veon Bell's in the passing game. So I'm not buying Crowder because I don't think he's a deep threat. He's not going to get me my touchdowns, and his upside is capped. And I do think he has a high floor, and if you just need a wide receiver 3, I think he's going to work for you. You know, same as Amendola. I kind of put him in the same category because, you know, they're just not going to get touchdowns. So, and moving on to something a little more interesting is Keesean Johnson, who's the wide receiver over there on the Cardinals. And he's kind of forgotten by most fantasy experts, but you can see he got a lot of targets. I don't remember how many targets he got, but it was a lot. And on that offense, they're going to throw the ball a whole lot. They're going to be up tempo, so they're going to have a lot of plays. And even when they run the ball, they're going to run the ball through the pass. You know, they're going to dump it off and throw small passes, and Keesean Johnson's going to be in there. They run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets, so Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk are all going to get their targets, and Keesean Johnson is going to be in that offense. And we're talking about number 12 here, so we're down the list a little bit, and so we're getting a little bit deep. And let's go over to Terry McLaurin. Now on the Redskins, we've got Jordan Reed is hurt. He's got a opportunity there, and they're going to be down a lot. But the problem is the offense is not good, and he's not even the number 1 wide receiver. They don't have a left tackle, and last game he blew up, but the Eagles cornerbacks and the Eagles secondary is really soft, so I don't really expect a whole lot of this from Terry McLaurin. I know he's a physical freak, and his height, weight, speed adjusted SparkX score is crazy through the roof, so maybe he's that good, but you just got to keep an eye on him. That's why I put him on the list. But there was a lot going for him in that game, and you know, but there's a lot more that says that in the future it won't be like that. Like I said, he doesn't have their left tackle. He's not the number 1 wide receiver. The offense is bad, and Jordan Reed was hurt. So when Jordan Reed comes back, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in that team. So yeah. I like McLaurin as a speculative ad, especially in Dynasty. He's a steal in Dynasty. And then A.J. Brown, he's the wide receiver over there at Tennessee Titans. And Corey Davis, who you're going to see him on my drop list, he's the number 1 wide receiver there, and he's not even that good. And then they got Delanie Walker, who's the actual number 1 wide receiver, even though he's not a wide receiver. And then they want to run the ball all the time. So I don't really know where A.J. Brown's going to fit in. He'll probably have a couple games where he has a nice breakout play or two, but he's definitely not someone I'm depending on. And so that's it, my homies. You know, John Brown, Tyrelle Williams, those are the guys you want to get. Very high chance they're not available in your league anymore, which would make Marquise Brown the number 1 pickup. And everybody else after that is really speculative. Marquise Brown is a legit piece, and even though he's on a low pass volume offense, those passes that he does get are going to be very, very valuable, and he's a great talent, so he's going to be able to take advantage of them. So I like Marquise Brown as the top waiver wire pick just because Tyrelle Williams, John Brown probably not there. All right, homies, may the points be with you. Knock that booty out of here, and gently tap that subscribe button to make sure you get my next video, which is going to be coming out with my drops and sells. We're going to do a sell high and a buy low segment coming up, so make sure you catch that. All right. Have a good one. Peace to my niece.